Gentlemen, herzlich willkommen. Welcome to Henning Knows Best. Give it up for Otto Kuhnle. And Herr Kuhnle, the funniest man from Düsseldorf and the Fatherland's foremost Yodelmeister, and more from him in a little while. Well, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Henning. I am the German comedy ambassador to the United Kingdom, and I know there are all those stereotypes, but let me get one thing straight. We Germans like a laugh. Just like you Brits, we really, really do. Honestly, we really do. The only difference is we Germans laugh once the work is done, whilst you laugh instead of doing any meaningful work. And that is the main cultural difference. And now for the next 6 weeks I've been kindly asked to explore aspects of British society, and today's topic is the class system. British class system is very different from Germany, where everybody's doing incredibly well. We used to have Barone and Kaiser and Großherzog and Kurfürsten and whatnot, but all these were destroyed, along with most of our infrastructure, by foreign aggressors. Thank you very much. And today we have shiny new autobahns of social mobility on which everyone can speed along to their heart's content. But it wasn't always like this. Some of you might remember a documentary about Germany during the hard times. It was called Auf Wiedersehen, Pet. In 1984, my hard-working father said to me, "Entschuldigen Sie, wie komme ich am besten zum Bahnhof?" which roughly translates as, "Son, emigrate." There's nothing for you in Germany. All the manual labor jobs in the Rhineland have been taken by chirpy, lovable, violent Geordies who are refugees from Margaret Thatcher's war against laziness. Which is another war you started and we had to pay for. We didn't get rid of the English until reunification, when all them Eastern European builders snapped up the jobs for nothing. Just glad not to be making things out of asbestos and their own blood. But we're not here to discuss Germany. That's the Daily Mail's job. We're here to discuss the British class system that caused so much turmoil. The labels lower, middle and upper class first appeared during the Industrial Revolution. In the early days, it was broadly speaking defining who owned the donkey, who walked the donkey, and who was the donkey. And since then, a whole army of publicly funded sociologists have researched the topic and identified groups I don't believe for a second are distinguishable. Whole books are devoted to comparing the upper, lower, lower, upper, middle class to the upper, lower, upper, middle, lower, middle, lower, middle class to the upper, lower, upper, middle, lower, middle, lower, upper, upper, middle, middle, lower, upper, lower, upper, middle, lower, upper, middle, upper, upper, lower, middle, upper, lower, lower, upper, middle, lower, lower, middle class. Those class books have never been read by anyone. Yet they do play a very important role in modern-day Britain. The middle class have them on the bookshelf to look sophisticated. The lower class uses them to prop up their 50-inch plasma TVs. And the aristocracy uses them to get the fire going. And one thing is for sure, life in Britain is all about knowing your place. And let's start at the bottom, the lower class. The lower class has a lot in common with the upper class in that they're mostly unemployable, make virtually no tax contribution, have a taste for Burberry and shotguns, and don't need to consider if they can afford another child. And they also both live in grandly named estates that are falling apart around their ears. They are both hated by the middle class, who never actually see any upper or lower class people, unless they watch Country House Rescue or The X Factor, which they do relentlessly. Many of the lower class don't go to school, because if they do, they run into Jamie Oliver, who will be taking their chips off them. Force them to meet Rolf Harris. So as far as I can tell, as an outsider, the lower and upper classes rule the country between them. The upper class spends most of its time saying, "Oi, where's me martini?" And the lower class spends most of its time saying, "Oi, where's me benefits?" And the middle class spends most of its time saying, "I'm sorting both those things out for you now." Sorry about the wait. However, this cozy picture is confused by a fourth class, the so-called working class, an ancient term once referring to the class that worked. These days, the term refers to the long-term unemployed that talk about how hard their dads used to work. And the historic working class has a special place in the British psyche, a bit like the red squirrel, or Queen Mum's older sister, Dame Vera Lynn.
There always be an England where there's a country lane.
We're all European now, Herr Kuhnle. Just like the red squirrel, the working class used to be everywhere, but now inhabits only the far north and the Isle of Wight. All the same, every Brit likes to imagine that his father was a working class hero, in much the same way that every Frenchman likes to think that his granddad fought in the resistance. Now, who am I to set either of you straight? The working class were a bunch of cheeky, cheerful, dirty-faced geezers who did back-breaking work for no money, knew their place, and would be spending all day saying things such as, "Lovely jubbly, oi oi savaloy, and have a banana." Despite no one ever seen a banana. Hard as it may to believe, but in those days the working class was too busy working to hunt for pedophiles or buy tracksuits from Sports Direct. And the historic working class is fondly remembered by the middle class, who wants to bring them back, along with white Christmases and hanging. And now we're moving on to the middle class, and the middle class is so huge that it has turned into warring factions. Broadly speaking, there are three subsections. The lower middle class, who read the Daily Mail. The middle class, who read the Guardian. And the upper middle class, who read the Financial Times. The only real difference between them is who they blame for taking all their money. The lower middle class thinks the poor and the immigrants are taking all their money. The middle class thinks the upper middle class is taking all their money. The upper middle class thinks the taxman is taking all their money. All of them have houses and credit cards they can't afford, which are taking all their money. My parents always taught me, they always said, "Henning, you must not spend more than you earn. Then I came over here and realized there was a different economic rule here in the UK. And the one economic rule in the UK is you must not worry. And once the interest payments on the credit card exceeds your actual income, you must not worry and get yourself another credit card. That will be interest-free for the first 6 months and will give you enough breathing space to treat yourself to a luxurious holiday abroad. And once the whole system collapses, you must go camping in central London and blame bankers for treating you like a grown-up and letting you make your own ill-just decisions. Newspapers keep talking about the need for a middle-class revolution. But like all revolutions, this one would turn in on itself very quickly. Before very long, there would be a guillotine in Trafalgar Square, surrounded by stalls selling free-range burgers and fair-trade coffee. And what remains of German aristocracy is now living comfortably in Britain as the royal family. They're as German as the Mini Cooper. And just like the Mini Cooper, they're loved by all, as could be seen at last year's royal wedding, when in excess of 1 million people lined the streets of London to watch overprivileged people drive non-competitively. Worldwide, more than 2 billion people watched the wedding on the Gogglebox, proving there is nothing on telly everywhere. Seeing their exalted position, it's almost ironic that the core quality of the royal family is its common touch. Prince William, for example, is a regular guy who just so happens to be president of the English Football Association. He's also a big supporter of Aston Villa. He's a bit rubbish. I mean, Aston Villa, they're from the Midlands. I mean, there is nothing wrong with the Midlands. Well, there is. I've been there. What I don't like about Prince William supporting Aston Villa is that I think Prince William should have the decency to support his local side, Hanover. That's the very reason why Prince Harry is so much better liked in Germany, because Prince Harry, he isn't afraid to don the good old uniform every now and then. Standing up for his family history. Well, other than the royal family, it's very difficult to say who else is upper class. Are the royals the only upper class people in Britain? Well, let's find out, and welcome to the stage a man that should be able to shed some light on that mystery. The social and cultural observer and author of the official Sloane Ranger Handbook, Peter York! Very good. Take a seat.
Thank you. And you too.
Oh, thank you. You're patronising me very well. And so far from what you've heard, is it a fairly accurate description of the class system?
God, I thought it was brilliant. Do you live out of London? What postcode?
N8.
Oh, come on. N8? Well, it doesn't happen. The full force of the global jackboot does not fall on N8. I'm sorry about the N8 thing. I didn't...
Don't hold it against you.
No. Where is it?
What did you make of David Cameron saying he's middle class? I mean, if he's middle class, is there still an upper class? Or is it just foreign?
In polls, nobody says they're upper class. People who are upper class are terribly aware of the more upper class a person. They're thinking, I'm not really upper class, I'm not a duke, I'm a baronet, come on, you know.
So, Peter, are you saying if we were to ask the Queen, she would say she's middle class?
I think she thinks of herself as middle class. I think she thinks of herself as representing us all.
Well, people of thinking they represent everyone. Usually they're dictators, aren't they? Is it us foreigners being obsessed with the British class system more than the Brits themselves? Is that true?
When they do research around the world about Britain, that's the first thing that comes up. And it's because of the royal family. And also because of our media industry, Downton Abbey.
It's also the only way is Essex.
That is completely wonderful stuff. It doesn't sell abroad like Downton. It's for us. It's about us. It's for us, yes. And the point about the only way is Essex people is they're really quite well off. Those are not the industrious poor, are they?
Well, they're certainly not industrious. No, but if you were to go abroad, were to introduce yourself at a party, say in Düsseldorf, where Kuhnle is from, you were to go to a party in Düsseldorf, would your class background be part of your self-description or your understanding of yourself?
In Düsseldorf, the only time I've had a major robbery from the car.
Tell us, what went missing?
I tell you, God, it was lovely. I think about it. This years later, it was a crocodile suitcase.
There's no swimming in the Rhine. There is the idea abroad that essentially in Britain you all live in castles. And you get up in the morning and go fox hunting, and then late at night birch your servants, and for the joy of it. What demonstrates most what class someone is from or in?
Well, I always think it's their bank balance.
So that means that John Terry is upper class?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I can't thank you enough for coming on the shows, shedding some light on the mystery that is the class system. Please, everybody, give it up one more time for the fantastic Peter York. Is there still a class system? I mean, after this conversation, I'm just as unsure as I was before. I mean, is class still relevant? Well, Tony Blair, he dreamed of a classless Britain and tried to level the playing field by sending everyone to university. But as anyone who understands basic economics knows, the effect of everyone having a degree is to make them all worthless. Well, there got to be failure for success to be possible. And there can't be a situation where everyone's got success, because that's then not success. That's then just the norm. You know, of the 2.7 million unemployed in Britain today, 2.3 million have a BA with honours in film and media studies. And a millstone of student debts round their neck. This leads to the horrible situation that even educated youngsters feel the need to go on the X Factor, only to find themselves temporarily too well known to take the bus, but still too poor to take a cab. The philanthropist Charles Booth, he tried to chart London's classes with his poverty map in 1898, colouring the houses and streets in colours that represented social groups, such as good ordinary earnings or vicious semi-criminal. I would argue today money has much less impact on a person's class, because today he would need to paint a map in hundreds of different colours, representing feckless graduate with no people skills, affluent lap dancer, or terrifying good-for-nothing upper-class corrupt businessman without a business. And that's Prince Andrew's house. And class is betrayed by the little things in life. The one surefire way of showing upper middle-class affluence was frequent consumption of the after eight. Yeah, but like university education today, everyone is at it with disastrous consequences. Now, just the other day, did I see someone eat an after eight on a bus? At 6 p.m. In a blatant breach of the clearly specified eating instructions. What is class? Is it a sense of community? Traditionally, the most equal part of the country remained the north of England, with its strong sense of community spirit. It goes back through Britain's industrial past all the way to the feudal times. What I'm trying to say, it's so nice up north. Now, I tell all southerners to go up north and experience the great northern community spirit firsthand. We just travel across the Pennines on a train, say from Preston over to York. It's beautiful countryside. But you'll only understand what the great northern community spirit is all about when the train goes through any of the towns or villages on the way. Because from nowhere, there'll be loads of fly tipping. Huh? And there'll be fridges, freezers, washing machines, the lot. And there are walls and fences to the right and the left of the train tracks. Yet beside the train tracks, there they are, thousands of unwanted white goods. Took me a long time to understand the cultural significance of those abandoned household appliances. But, I mean, every single one of them is a moving testament to the great northern community spirit. Yeah, it is, because have you ever tried to lift a washing machine on your own? Ooh, I can't get this over the fence. Can anybody give me a hand, please? And then the whole village comes running, and they get it over the fence, and it hurtles down towards the tracks, and they rejoice in their great northern community spirit, and setting fire to an abandoned car. Yeah, it's the north of England, united in antisocial behaviour. Devon in bloom. Who needs that? Lancashire in tatters. And that's the accolade you want your village to win. Let's not forget, Britain offers everyone the opportunity to live their dream. Because I came over all those years ago to work in marketing. And then one night I walked past the pub where it said, "Tonight, stand-up comedy." So I went in, had a butcher's, really enjoyed what I saw. I picked up the phone the next morning and got my first few open mic gigs in. And that's the beauty of life in Britain. You can really live your dream. If you want to become a stand-up comedian, you can start tomorrow. Brilliant. No one's going to stop you. Equally, if your dream is being a plumber, you can start tomorrow. And no one's going to stop you. You can live your dream. Brilliant. I mean, obviously, your customers, they'll be knee-deep in feces in no time. Well, you can live your dream. And Germany is a far more restrictive society. Of course, in Germany, you have to go through the tedious process of an apprenticeship until you know what you're doing.
Henning, that's why you're working here, huh?
Yes, yeah. So, Herr Kuhnle, we were talking about dreams and ambitions.
Yes, we are talking about, and by pure chance, I wrote a song about dreaming. Everybody's got a secret dream and hopes that it comes true. No matter who you are, a homeless drunk or a well-known star, everybody has their dream, even if only cake with cream. The German dream all year, it's a schnitzel with a nice cold beer. None of us want what we already have. The grass is always greener, so we keep on believing. Ho ho, that's called dreaming. The bald-headed man wants to have some hair. When he gets some hair, he wants an affair. For every pound in your pocket, you want two. A beautiful girl wants an ugly tattoo. I've had a wish for a long, long time. It comes deep from this old heart of mine. It's been my dream for my whole life. It's not kids, not money, not even a fight. But my fantasy is so unrealistic. At least if you believe the statistic, just one thing I've always wanted to do, and that's to yodel on radio too. Jodeln auf Radio 2. Now that I have achieved this dream, all that's left is to yodel for the cream.
Thank you. Wunderbar. And we've learned loads today about the British class system, haven't we? It does exist, but it doesn't matter. Except for when it matters, which is quite often. Except for when it doesn't. So there's lots of classes, but everyone is middle class. People are aspirational, yet lazy. So they play down their background. People have manners, except for the ones they don't, and they all like their after eight. But no one's eaten one since the 1980s. So it's all too complicated. Trying to explain the class system in 26 minutes. How misguided. I give up. That's it for now. Tune in next week when I'll explain the meaning of life. That was Henning Knows Best. Hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Peter York, the fabulous Otto Kuhnle, and was written by the cast and Ken Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning Wehn, he knows best. 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 Henning Wehn, he knows best.
Yeah, Otto Kuhnle, the funniest man from Düsseldorf. Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Henning. I am the German comedy ambassador to the United Kingdom. Herzlich willkommen to Henning Knows Best. I've been asked to explore aspects of British society, and this week we'll look at the British sense of humour. The best in the world, as every Brit will tell you. Now, well, let's discuss the best marketing campaign in the world. No, not that the Austrians made the world believe Hitler was German and Beethoven Austrian. That only comes as a distant second. The best marketing campaign is that Brits say the funniest things. Well, if that would be the case, there would be no need for me being on the radio. Contrary to the usual trademark modesty and understatement, no Brit will ever get tired of letting the world know with astonishing arrogance about his or her great sense of humour, which all other nationalities, and particularly Germans, lack. This ignorance makes my job very easy, and this lecture a guaranteed success. No, because either it'll be funny, or I confirm a national stereotype. It's a win-win situation. Wunderbar. In every stupid nonsense survey, and I'm using the term in the loosest sense of the word, claiming Germans have the worst sense of humour in the world, will get massive exposure in British media. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy debates that are based entirely on prejudice and not watered down by facts. But seriously, how anyone can claim that the country that gave the world Herr Flick, Colonel von Strom, General von Klinkerhofen and Lieutenant Gruber has no humour is beyond me. And To know how frustrated other countries are with Brits unjustifiably banging on about their great sense of humour, well, it's how the rest of Britain used Liverpool. British humour started in earnest in the 17th century, when London became the dumping ground for people escaping from the 100-year continental sense of humour failure religious wars. Catholics from Sweden, Huguenots from France, German Protestants, Jews from the Russian pogroms, all fled from a Europe that couldn't even accept an alternative prayer book. Still less a funny song about the Pope. And I don't want to hear a bad word about the current Pope. British humour grew out of this exposure to extreme dogma and intolerance, and having all been sent to live in London's East End, humour became a coping mechanism that valued sneering above all things. This culture of ridicule, interestingly, led to a decline in social violence. Duelling died out in Britain 100 years earlier than it did in Germany, and 200 years before it stopped in Italy and the United States. Because from the early 1700s, you couldn't have a duel in Britain without people standing around, sniggering, giggling, and offering helpful advice. And it was hard to have a glamorous death in such circumstances. And so in every town but Liverpool, the British abandoned ideas of honour. Only going back to them when given the opportunity to jail Pakistani cricket players. The German language is best to convey humour. So we put the verb at the end of the sentence. And this makes the build-up to the punchline so exciting. You don't know what's going to happen, but you do know who and why. Still, despite having the perfect language for joke-telling, there are hardly any stand-ups in Germany. Because life in the Fatherland is perfect. And there is no need to daydream and imagine what it would be like living in some parallel universe full of badgers, jam and unicorns. It's very much unlike Britain, where life, due to unrealistically high expectations and below par work ethic, is an endless chain of crushing disappointment, with everyone needing constant cheering up. Honestly, saying a country with no stand-up has no humour, it's like saying a country with no jails has no crime. Such as Somalia. All the same, pub jokes in Britain and Germany are largely identical. An old codger falling over or getting a cake in the face is always funny, even during a famine. Also, two fat blokes, a cannibal or vicar guarantee a good pub joke in any country. Humour works worldwide, if the reference points are known. But if they're not, you're in trouble. Last year I went out to Australia, to the Melbourne Comedy Festival, with my show, My Struggle. You're a typical British audience, aren't you? Hee, a German, hee, doing a comedy show, called My Struggle, like Hitler's book, and then that wasn't a reaction in Australia at all. In Australia, it was like, yeah, hello, my name is Henning. Please come and see my show. It's called My Struggle. And they were all like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it took me a long time to understand why that was. But in Australia, they've got a lot of German ancestry. It means they've got a very good understanding of German history and culture. And they don't just reduce us to those 12 years. Which, as a human being, I really appreciated. But from a professional point of view, I wish they were a bit more narrow-minded. Like you do it so well over here. Now you have just been laughing about being less sophisticated than Australians. Not a good state of affairs. But when I was still working in an office job, our offices were next door to a Polish restaurant. Yeah, and every day much hilarity was caused by a limitless number. You know where that joke's going, huh? Eastwards. And there was much hilarity caused by a limitless number of variations of, where are we going for lunch? Is Henning coming? We can't go to the Polish place then. He wouldn't leave. And the whole office would erupt in laughter every day. Several times a day. And there was little I could do, because I had two options. Either I laughed along, or if I didn't, I opened the door for myriad versions of typical German, no sense of humor. With someone else going, yeah, and that's why they invaded Poland, you know. What can I say? It was funny the first 8,000 times. Equally, when I'm on the golf course, and my ball happens to land in one of those sand pits. Now, you know where that one's going to. And there is a 100% chance, no, not of me chipping it in the hole, no, that never happened. So there is a 100% chance of someone saying, oh, he's worse than Hitler, always in the bunker. And everybody will be bursting out laughing, even though if they've heard it 12,408 times before. Anyway, British humour can be summarised with the line, that always makes me laugh. My friend Liam, he used to live in Hong Kong. Likes to talk about a bus that was going to an area called Pak Tin. In Hong Kong, you know where that one's going, yeah. In Hong Kong, being Hong Kong, the bus was always crowded. And seeing a crowded bus going to Pak Tin always made Liam laugh. And just retelling the story makes him always laugh. And what is unique about Britain is the massive social importance of humour, particularly the widespread usage of self-deprecation in the workplace. It's an infuriating concept. Well, let me tell the people back home here at the recording, there are quite a few candidates. I had a look earlier on. They have been in the venue bar since it opened. And tomorrow morning there will be at least one of you on the phone along the lines of, ooh, I went to the comedy recording yesterday, yeah. And went home, yeah, felt a bit peckish. I tried to fry an egg. Yeah, but I was so drunk I fell asleep. And next thing I know, the house is on fire. Yeah, a bit of a volley, aren't I? Well, you have to laugh, haven't you? 9. You're not a volley, you're a fully fledged idiot of the highest order. You should be implementing steps to make sure that something like that never, ever happens again. And the only person that's worse is that fella on the other end of the phone. And then goes, you really are a volley. Let's meet down the boozer. I get the first round in. 9. It's a very important rule of German humour. It's the concept of Schadenfreude. Never ever laugh with failure. Only ever laugh at failure. Stuart Pearce, 1990. Gareth Southgate, 96. What makes me chuckle is that it's perfectly acceptable to take the piss out of Germans, or French, or ginger people for that matter. While society gets its knickers in a twist trying not to offend ethnic minorities. I mean, a few years ago, the BBC vetted old Only Fools and Horses episode and cut out remarks which could be considered derogatory to people from Asian or African background. But I wonder what would happen to Allo Allo. If BBC would decide to cut out all elements that might be deemed insensitive towards Germans. Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once. You have been watching. But the fact is, Allo Allo doesn't bother me. In fact, I absolutely love it. Because we all know Brits do have a strong tradition of mocking who they fear most. You're right to be afraid. Third time lucky. Yeah, well, to give us an idea what really makes the Brit laugh, welcome to the stage, Andy Hamilton. Andy is one of the UK's most successful comedy writers, having co-written the likes of Outnumbered.
Yeah.
Drop the Dead Donkey.
Yeah, don't mention the Bernie Winters show.
No, you didn't do that, did you?
No.
It's good to have jokes coming out the radio, isn't it?
Yeah. I got in trouble once. When I started at BBC Radio, I wrote on a show called Weekending, and we used the word piss. And the controller of Radio 4, we got this memo saying that he didn't want piss coming out of the radio at 5.
So far from what you've heard in the first half, what do you make of the perspective of British humour?
Yeah. Well, from a particular point of view, wasn't it? Yeah, no, I agree. I always get a little bit wary of the sort of generalisations about national senses of humour and stuff, because I think that fundamentally the core of humour is universal, which is that I think journalists often ask you, what is a joke? They ask you to define what is the essence of a joke, and it's very difficult. There are loads of different kinds of jokes, different varieties, but the nearest I've ever come to a definition is that I think that a joke is usually a shared acceptance of powerlessness. Because if you look at most jokes, they are nearly all about things we can't control. Getting older, disease, death, our political masters, traffic wardens. They're all about things we can't control. And I think probably almost as soon as we invented language, as soon as the cavemen discovered language and could string a joke together, I bet the first jokes were about saber-toothed tigers and lightning.
So when you say it's all about things you can't control, so how do you explain then all those mother-in-law jokes?
Well,
it's also uncontrollable force of nature.
I think there probably was fear. Yeah, I think maybe, in a time when it was quite a good chance you'd be living with your mother-in-law. That's what we forget, is that those jokes arose in homes which were extended families. It was quite often the mother-in-law was in the house.
Well, in Italy, they all live with their mother.
Yeah.
So at least I think mother-in-law is one better, isn't it?
But but in Italy, I wonder, do they tell mother-in-law jokes? Do you have mother-in-law jokes in Germany?
Otto?
No.
Are they just too depressing to joke about?
Yeah, he just went through a divorce. So.
Was it the accordion that caused the divorce?
What is your understanding, Andy, of German humour?
I'm not an expert by any means, but I have had stuff on German TV. Many years ago, I was contacted by a writer who was putting together a package of material for sketch shows for Germany. He rang me up and said, have you got any jokes, any sketches that I can send over to Germany? I said, well, what do the Germans laugh at? And he said, well, basically, toilets and death. So I suppose in that sense, the demise of Elvis Presley is the perfect German joke.
What makes you laugh, Andy? Someone getting run over by the bus or getting worked out earlier?
Yeah, I'll spend hours at a busy junction sometimes. Just waiting for that to happen. I'll try and distract people as they come in across. You said, why do people laugh at things again and again? But often you laugh at the memory of how much you laughed the first time. And I can remember being in a restaurant in America with my friend Jay Tarsis, who's an American writer, and he said, I don't really know this place. And we sat down, we opened the menu, and it's a fantastically pretentious, overwritten menu. And item 38 was Princess Diana clams. So you thought, you read it, but there was a rubric next to it, okay, like there was next to all the dishes, and it said, Princess Diana clams. She loved these as we loved her. And we got the giggles. So that when the waitress came over, we were actually helpless. You know that giggle where actually all that happens is stuff comes out of your facial orifices, and she went away quite offended and came back. And then I tried to order Princess Diana clams, which meant that my voice was reduced to a splutter. And I think it's just those kind of absurd, dissonant notes that sort of surprise you and ambush you, What's your favourite joke, then?
Personally, I must say, I really enjoyed slapstick. Mr. Bean and Benny Hill, and that always makes me laugh.
Are you a Benny Hill fan?
Oh, yeah, big time.
So when you came to Britain, did you think we all walked really fast? And chase after girls across the common?
I think it was the other way around. He was always being chased after, wasn't he, by the girls? But yeah, I expected to see a bit more of that. Well, Andy.
Is Is it me, or is the accordion starting to sound sarcastic? You know? Yeah.
Now it's jolly again.
Yeah.
Well, Andy Hamilton.
Thank you.
What instantly attracted me to the comedy scene was its Teutonic structure. The fun seems to be based on strict rules which have to be obeyed at all times. The process of getting booked and the performing itself are particularly thorough. An act will agree with a comedy club promoter months in advance to be funny on a specific date at a specific time for a specific length of time. Say June the 12th from 9:34 p.m. to 9:53 p.m. When the act might have been on top of the world in the afternoon of that day, feeling all funny, ha ha, yeah? But then has an apple crumble with custard, too much custard. As a result, he feels queasy and doesn't want to go to the gig but stay indoors and watch match of the day. But he mustn't let this affect his performance and show military discipline, which only goes to show that success in stand-up comedy, just like success in everything else in life, is down to determination and efficiency, which explains why Germans are best suited to do it. But only very few do stand-up comedy, because stand-up comedy is pointless. The best case scenario is you leave the stage after 20 or even more minutes to the same level of applause that you were initially brought onto the stage. The only thing dufter than applause is the constant threat of having to perform an encore. The strangest thing in show business. A punishment for being good at your job. Imagine you did a great day's work and your boss would tell you, "Oh, you've done a great innings today. You're really on a roll. Why don't you stay for another 2 hours?" Unpaid, of course. The problem with being a comedian is that everybody goes, "Oh, you're a comedian. Tell us a joke." And I wonder how frequently a heavyweight boxer gets approached with the words, "Ooh, are you really an undefeated world heavyweight super champion? Smash me one in the face." Yeah, not just a little biff, a right old beating up, please. All the comics you see, at really big level or small level, we're all united. We're all very, very worried that one day we're considered outdated, irrelevant old hats, like the 1970s comics. They were all telling their mother-in-law jokes, and everyone thought they were hilarious. And nowadays, no one thinks they're hilarious. But it's not the performer's fault, because they haven't changed. They're still telling exactly the same jokes they've always told. And the only thing that has changed is society's perception of what they do. Zeitgeist has moved on. So when I'm in that strange situation, I make a decent living here in Britain by telling jokes about football and the Holocaust. That's not what I want to talk about, but it's the only thing that you as my customer base, the great British public, it's the only thing you want me to talk about. Yeah, and being a good German, I'm only following your orders. And well, how much longer will I be able to do what I do? I was very worried 6 years ago when Germany hosted Football World Cup 2006 and presented itself to the world as what it is. It's a beautiful country full of very pleasant people. So with so many English people coming over, I was incredibly worried. I thought, dear, oh dear, oh dear, let's hope the stereotypes don't change. Didn't need to worry. I got back to Blighty 2 days after the World Cup final, Stansted Express, and there was a copy of the Daily Mail. And they have a flick through. And the question of the day in the Daily Mail, 2 days after the final of the best organised World Cup ever. The question of the day in the Daily Mail was, did the RAF save Britain from Hitler? I got result. Thank God for that. I'm still relevant. Nothing's changed. Thank God. Yeah, but that's today's society. What will the future be like? Well, I know a little bit, because I recently got asked to perform at something that's called Comedy for Kids. And Comedy for Kids is a very simple concept. It's aimed at pretentious parents who will drag their spoiled offspring to an art centre where the kids have to listen to some jokes they won't get. Yeah, it's an utterly ridiculous concept, start to finish. But anyway, I went in there because I thought, well, loads of future customers get them early and all that. So I did the gig. It was in Maidstone. So I went on stage saying, hello, little ones, who in here has ever heard of Germany? And then 200 little ones put their hands up. So I was very pleasantly surprised by that. So then I thought, well, kids in Britain between the age of 6 and 10, what will they know about Germany? Have they got any first-hand experience? Have they been with their parents on a Rhine cruise? You know, if it's girls, do they know German composers? Or if it's boys, do they know German car manufacturer, BMW, Mercedes, Rover? And I couldn't imagine any of those things. And then with genuine curiosity, I approached the first boy, give or take 8 years old. I said, what do you know about Germany? And he said, they bombed Yeovil. So I go to the next boy, again, give or take 8 years old, and I say, what do you know about Germany? Naughty Hitler. I was furious. I hated them. I hated their parents. I hated their grandparents for passing on that nonsense. I mean, I hated their grandparents more than my grandparents hated their... I wanted to kill them all. Germany, it's a beautiful country. Germany is great for arts, great for science, great holiday destination, pleasant people, great climate, brilliant food. Germany is a fantastic country. So why here in Britain do we always get reduced to those 12 years that never ever happened anyway? And then I had another thought, and I thought, hang on, Henning, do you know what that bigotry means? Lifelong job security!
I will sing now this tune with my head voice, which I trained by yodeling every day. And for those who did not understand that, it will sound a little bit like the Bee Gees. We rule the world, the British say, all through the ages and still today. The Commonwealth is in full swing. Brits say the funniest things. Continent is over there, but we do not care. We have severed all the links. Brits say the funniest things. Our empire is big and strong, from east to west, great and long. It's all ruled by our queens and kings. Brits say the funniest things. Global currency is the British pound. It's what makes the world go around. We take the markets under our wings. Brits say the funniest things. Brits has the best sense of humor. It's more than just a rumor. They say they are the humor kings. Brits say the funniest things. Ha 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 ha. Brits say the funniest things.
This was Henning Knows Best, and what have we learned today? British and German jokes are identical, but Germans don't make a big song and dance about it. I'm bad at golf, but good at exploiting stereotypes, and there shouldn't be comedy for kids. There should be homework for kids. And loads of it at that. Thanks so much for listening, and keep supporting the Daily Mail. Henning Wehn,
knows best. Henning Wehn, he knows best.
That was Henning Knows Best, hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Andy Hamilton, der wunderbare Otto Kuhnle, and was written by the cast and Ken Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning Wehn, he knows best. Henning Wehn, he knows best.